Hi, my name is Michelle Brennan, and on behalf of Sligo Library, I'd like to welcome you to the Word live here in Sligo Central Library and online on our Facebook page. We're delighted tonight to have author Seamus O'Rourke, author of Standing in Gaps and its sequel Leaning on Gapes, leaning on gates. We're so delighted to have Seamus because we can't keep his books on the shelves, and as you can see, we could only get leaning on gates because our standing and gaps are all checked out. So he's been a hugely popular writer with the library, with our customers, so it's just an honour to have him here. He'll be joined by fellow Leitrim Brian Leyden, who's a writer in himself. His own work includes a best-selling memoir, The Home Place. And as you've just heard, we're having music with JANE WILLOW. JANE is a Dutch-Irish singer who has performed in Vicar Street, at Body and Soul and at Electric Picnic, and as well as collaborating with RTE Concert Orchestra and Kevin Corcoran of the Villagers, and her work is available on Bandcamp to buy. So you're welcome to join in on our audience Q&A session, and our open mic today is facilitated by Conor Joyce, which I think is full. We've 5 full on that as well. So we hope you enjoyed the evening, and I'm just going to hand you over now to Brian to take over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle and Jane, for the lovely music. And I see a lot of familiar faces here in the room. It's great to see you all here this evening. And I know you're especially gathered for Seamus O'Rourke, our superstar from Leitrim. Seamus, it's a great pleasure to meet you again, especially now. Things are going good for you. We had a brief conversation just now where we're having a bit of fun, but I spoke to you yesterday as well. You were in Cork. You were driving up to Clifton, talking to me on the hands-free. Now you're in Sligo, and you've got a little time to call home to Balmore. You're touring your play Indigestion, Porrick Potts, and you're preparing also, I believe, to star in Brian Friel's Faith Healer, a play I want to come back to in more detail later in the conversation. And there's also talk of a John B. Cain play, The Hungry Farmer. So that's just... So tell us where's the next destination, and how much time are you spending on the road?
Well, I'm on the road a good bit, yeah. So I'm driving quite a bit. I'm rehearsing a play in Cork, and I'm also touring, and I never really refuse to go anywhere. So I'm. I was reared on a poor country farm, so I take whatever I get. But I have 6 one-man shows, so I thought that I would tour them once and that would be it. But I keep bringing them back, and so I'm touring them all. Kind of all the times, and then I try and fit in whatever else comes, and so that's. I mean, I'm just. I don't really take much control of it. It kind of controls me, but like the rest of my life. So.
Well, I felt you were on one of these, like the old show bands, where they'd have sort of Donegal one night, then Kerry, and then it would be kind of in a show, and the next night Limerick. Yeah, managers would.
Yeah, it's not far off that. Because it doesn't fall that you can arrange your tour according to, and I love to come home every night. I hate staying away. I like the comfort of my own bed. So and the great thing about this country now is travel isn't too difficult unless you're way down in West Cork, so you have to stay.
Yeah, it's a long haul. I've done that one myself, and Seamus, there's a lot of. It's full-time acting. You made that move into that.
Yeah.
You had a long involvement with the Carrigalan Players, I know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I came into acting late in that I was in my mid-20s before I had the. I keep telling everyone I was very shy one time, and the last thing I wanted to do was to be in front of people, but. I realized then when I did get on the stage that was the best place to hide, because you weren't yourself. You could hide within the character you were playing. So it's been a great haven for me for the last 40 years or 35 years so stage now is a great love of mine, and I love performing. So and I know. People always ask me, which would you prefer to be acting or directing or writing? And I love them all. It's a bit like being asked, which of your kids are you fondest of? But I think the most immediate pleasure you get is when acting. It's immediate, you know. Whereas writing is a different thing. But I absolutely love sitting in front of a blank screen as it is now as well. So.
Well, we'll trace some of that trajectory this evening, Seamus. But actually, also, Leitrim has lost a footballer in you.
No, they didn't.
You were Leitrim Young Footballer of the Year in 1980. Tell
Where
us
did
about,
you do your research?
It's in Standing in Gaps.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, when I was young, my only passion was to play Gaelic football. I didn't start in a great county for that ambition, but anyway, and you know, like we were all good at putting all our eggs into one basket. So I had all my eggs stacked in that basket, but
yes,
Mother Nature put her foot in it when she kind of very bit by bit, drip by drip, she let me know that I wasn't really cut out to be the amazing footballer that I thought I was going to be. So
you enjoyed it though. You were passionate.
Oh, I did, and you see, I suppose on the other thing was, I suppose I was performing. Some people would say not performing very well, but anyway, it was a place to express yourself, I suppose, is the word. And you see, I think we're all, you know, born with this urge to express ourselves in some way, and so sport or football was my initial way, and that didn't work out so well. And as my father said, you'll not quit till you find something you're good at. So I ended up I found acting. Yeah,
there was actually it seemed to me that this strange intervention in your life, a man by the name of John Donnelly on a Honda 50.
Yeah,
and he was your postman.
Yes.
And he was a kind of a star of the Carrigalan.
Oh, he was, yeah. He was a big star. And my school teacher was Tommy Moran, who was also a star of the stage.
Yeah.
And the strange thing was, back in the 70s and 80s, the theatre or drama, as it was always called back then, it had a bit of a reputation for being just for teachers and solicitors and people who thought they knew a bit more than the average Joe Soap. Yeah. But in Carrigalan, everybody was involved. And so that, at least that was, that made it easy for someone to, you know, with no, I left school when I was 15, so I didn't have the, you know, I couldn't swagger in as the local teacher or the local whatever it is.
Well, as your friend John says, there's ones up there that make pure shite of a good line. Anyway, he was good timing as an actor. And he kind of taught you a bit of stagecraft. But like I was thinking, Seamus, that hooks into a lovely old tradition, which was that at Easter, you know, well, there were certain people who sort of quit the drink and take to the stage because there was drama. It was a big thing. I remember that in Leitrim and Mayo.
Well, the dance hall, there was no dances during Lent, so the drama was held mostly during Lent, and so that was a huge thing to get to the local play every Lent. Yeah. But I mean, you were talking about the likes of John Donnelly and these local actors, but we learned the art of acting and storytelling from what we call Caeliers. You know, we grew up in a time when your neighbours came visiting mostly older men, bachelors who hadn't great housekeeping at home, and they'd come to our house. My father used to cut hair and he'd do all sorts of things, but when I say he'd do all sorts of things, cut hair and wire a house or something, nothing else. But anyway, and you see, and my mother would get tea and bread and jam, and like they were treated like royalty. But I was telling someone the other day, we also had people who would come to visit, and if you weren't there, they would still come in, like we wouldn't lock the door, and you could come back from been somewhere and there'd be some neighbour sitting in your house and they had been sitting there for the last hour.
Yes.
And nobody thought anything about it. Like they
Yeah.
weren't
Turn on a light and
they weren't going through your things or
No,
anything.
no.
They were just sitting there because that was
Yeah.
something they done every evening. But those people came down and it was all we had no television in the early days, so it was all talking and telling stories and learning how to interact with those older men and you know,
Yes.
they talked about a dry one or a good spake or whatever it
Yes,
was.
a
You know,
good
so
yarn or good cut.
yes,
Yeah.
and if you weren't good at it, you were ignored. So so we
Oh,
learned
yeah.
so we learned how to be good at it, or
Yeah.
as best we could.
What Prindagnan used to say, we had a great visit. We told loads of lies and heard plenty. That was
Exactly.
Now your memoir, the first memoir, Standing in Gaps, kind of covers that very early life and characters like John Donnelly and that, and it actually just takes up to the first 18 years of your life, which is kind of nice to write about because it's grown up and it's coming of age. It gets a bit more problematic then in the second memoir, Standing or Leaning on Gates,
You have to
which
take
takes.
you have to take a bit of responsibility as you get older.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, "Oh, well, I was young and I was foolish and I did that." So yeah, I found the second one a little bit more difficult, and I'd be stuck in my head, you know, thinking what's next, and I'd be thinking the example I use, it's like having all these little rooms in your brain and you go, there's good stuff in that room, but I don't really want to open that door and go in there because it's a bit personal and it's a bit and it's also talking about a time when you weren't doing the right thing. I mean, it would be easy to write a book when you did everything properly and did it right, but so nobody does. Well, according to my old fella, we certainly didn't do anything right for a long time. No. But you know, we're all learning. So you don't, if you don't make mistakes. So the second book was much more difficult to go back into those places, a bit darker. But you know,
there's a strain in at the bit, I suppose, which we all do when we have to grow up. Like he's a huge presence in the memoirs. You call him the old lad,
the old fella,
the old fella, and he's there's a small farming life. There's everything to stand for. Your mother is one of these. She just, as you say, my mother had this expression that says that you know, if the sky was falling down, she'd run out and hold it up. I think your mother was that kind of sort.
Well, she'd knitted a jumper anyway, and and she'd make jam out of whatever fell off it. Yeah, no, she's and still is an amazing woman. But you see, I found this. I think it's a male thing in this country. We all. I was amazed, even in the last few years, as an older man, that we still talk about our fathers, the influence they had on us as growing up, and then I don't know what it is, but and I have, and we all had this love-hate relationship with our fathers. Now I was telling, I have a son who's 31 now, and I was telling him, you know, you're lucky that we've got to this stage now where I am just a grumpy old bastard in the corner, you know, because it's so easy to work off that. It's when the father wants to be your best friend. Now, my father never wanted to be my best friend, but I've seen a young fella in a restaurant or a shop recently, and his father was standing beside him trying to be his best friend, and I thought, that is the most horrible thing. Would you ever go away and let the child grow up? Because who is he going to hate if he's not going to hate you? Like, you know? And going around smooching with your young fella is it's not ideal. So I was, I think as I grow older, I can see now why. I mean, my father never wished any ill on me. He was just afraid that things wouldn't work out, you know, and he was, and he could see when things weren't working out. But I had to fail myself first, which I did.
Yeah. And I know you're going to give us a little sample of your work. We not to detain. Have you something pertinent there that you'd read from?
Okay. You were talking about characters, and I've always had a fierce graw for people who are a little bit different, and of course, growing up in rural Ireland, there's lots of those characters.
Yes.
I think there still are,
There
but
are.
you know, anyway. This is a man called Joe Clamping Maguire. Sorry, Cormac. Joe Clamping Maguire, and actually that noise is a bit like how Joe sounded. and he was always covered in. His skin was very dark, and he was from Drumreilly. So, he wouldn't have been that used to the basin of water, and he smoked major fags, and he loved to dance. Anyway, I was out of dancing in Carrigallen, and I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I'll just read this little bit, because this is Joe making his entrance into the dance hall. The big double doors at the back of the hall swung open, and the wind came in. It was supposed to be Joe Clamping Maguire, but Joe didn't enter on his first attempt. He was fairly full that night, and the rhythmic spring of the swing doors had catapulted him back out onto the street and thwarted his eager approach. Joe, however, was a man of great resilience. No matter how drunk he was still going to support Pat McKenna's social. He was still going to pursue his long-standing longing for a woman, and most of all, Joe Clamping was going to dance. In time, one of the doors reopened and Joe's head appeared. The spring-loaded teak pushing hard against his neck, the major cigarette in his mouth puffing frantically as the message got sent to the rest of his body that he wasn't fully through. Then, with a slight grimace, a smoke-stained hand appeared over his head, and his fight to emerge continued. "How are yous all doing?" Joe muffled, trying to fill the delay as he excavated himself from the front porch. "Horrid fucking night. No let up to this rain." Joe was always incoherent. His guttural, unshaped words seldom landed a punch. He had almost muscled his way into the hall, but for his trailing leg. "The curse of fucking this Hoorn thing." And then, I'm in. At last, Joe Clamping had made it. He was in. A small victory for some, but an outright miracle given the state of him. There was no welcome, no applause. It was as if people had been coming in and out through doors for years. But for me, that entrance somehow changed me from my pompous state.
When you mentioned the dance and the dance halls, I think I remember John McGahern up your part of the country, and there was lads who built a kind of a Nissan Hut dance hall. And then he was saying there wasn't a haycock safe for miles around with courting couples going home at night. But the influence, you're from John McGahern country and other writers as well. And we have form going back from John McGahern when summer school, and we did a thing together called on Droghid Bio, the Living Bridge, where I did some little adaptations from McGahern, and you did the McGahern figure, and we did them on location.
It was magical night. We did them in his where he lived for periods of his life in a place called Ahowillan, and it was such a pleasure to speak some of McGahern's words that you had carefully put together, edited, I suppose, and whatever. But and it just gave me an insight into what lovely language is when you put it into your mouth. It's one of the things I find when I go to do a play or whatever. The better the script is, the better the text is, the easier it is to learn. The more, and it's about feeling it in your mouth. And when I'm writing, I'm always saying it out loud. So I have a laptop and it's covered in spit. I'd need wipers on it now. It's that kind of a, but it's that thing of, you know, it's just, and McGahern was an amazing man to say so much in so few words.
Yes.
And I've always been, I mean, and he could be light, but he could be very dark as well, you know.
It could be very dark. But then, like I say, there's pain in that account of that man bursting in that door as well.
Oh, there is, yeah.
It seems like McGahern and yourself in some ways, it's, you know, it's, people see their lives being reflected back to them, and they're very drawn to that in the plays as well. You don't hesitate from, there's a depth of loneliness there sometimes, and isolation that these
but
men...
but I think you also get drawn to the small characters, you know, and strangely, sometimes you meet people after a play and they say, oh, you could write a play about this, and they tell you some very boring story that happened to them, and you're thinking, well, you're not going to be in my play because you're far too full of yourself. I want to write about people who, you know, who are unaware of their existence, and you know, that kind of the people that other people leave behind, because I think they're the most interesting, and we're all human, so they have to go through the whole array of emotions that we have, and they have to get up in the morning and go through their day, and I'm always curious what makes them get through their day. Like, is it is it the thought of the dinner, or is it something else? You know, so but I also wonder, you know, just when you say it, like, I mean, I think that, and I'm not an expert, but I think that we are shaped by where we grew up, by the even the geography and the terrain and the small fields and the winds, and you know, I don't know, I used to think when we were playing football, what would we be like if we got out into a big field, you know? Yes. We used to go up to play Kildare, and odd time we'd be on these huge big fields, and I was lost. I was more for and it's the same in the, you know, there's a that was the only disappointing thing I found with McGahern's beautiful film, or the film of That They May Face the Rising Sun. I thought the landscape didn't exactly match what he was writing about, but
there's it's a beautiful film, and I love the performances, and they're very tender. But I suppose we know our landscape so well that I always think there's a kind of a flintiness in the Connemara temperament, that there's a softness in
I'm also
I'm
also annoyed that I wasn't in it, so
but there is that as well, but and who else was, I know you have the Carrigan players, you have the likes of these, you know, actors rising out of the community, be a postman or whatever, and as I said, it's very egalitarian, it's very democratic, it's no longer in hands. Who else was influencing you, or what was coming at you that was leading you to this kind of, as I say, to express yourself?
That's a good question. I think there was always something in me that wanted to somehow, in some shape or form, cause a stir. I mean, the first they weren't called essays at the time. I remember one of the first compositions I wrote at school, and we were asked to write about a dream we had. And I don't think 8, 9-year-olds had dreams, but anyway, I said I had a dream that the school was burned down. But unfortunately, none of the teachers were in it. and I knew that it got a response out of the teacher. In fact, I felt it on the back of my head but and there was that in me, you know, and I never knew what way to get it out. And when I discovered theatre, I thought that's it. But it took me a long time to work out how to write a play. I love the acting was easy to an extent, but how to set about writing a play, it took me. I'd start to write I'd have an idea for a play, and I'd start to write, and I'd have all, after 3 pages, I'd have everything written down that I had in my head, and I'd say, that's a very short play.
Right.
You know, so I eventually bought one of those old copybooks, which is 100 pages long, and I had an idea for the name of the play, and I wrote the name of the play on the first page, and I went to the back page and I put lights down the end. And I thought, all I have to do now is fill in the bit in the middle.
Yeah.
But in a way, it stopped me from putting all the good stuff in the first 3 pages.
Yes, yes. That's kind of interesting, because we maybe we should come to that, because I was often say the time flies at these interviews.
Yeah.
And there was something I really wanted to go into a little bit with you, is the fact that you are going to play Frank Hardy in The Faith Healer in an upcoming production. And that's...
What a lucky boy.
Yeah, that is an
fantastic,
extraordinary role. But that play, Faith Healer, I mean, when we look at theatre today now, it was so unique at the time, groundbreaking. Now we've gotten used to the kind of, it was soliloquies maybe, but this idea of telling through monologues, having characters on stage, giving different perspectives, triangulating maybe on an incident, each with their own account. Was that in your head as well, like you're saying, I'm going to bring this play, it'll have to be some kind of monologue, it'll be me, it'll be a one-man show perhaps?
Yeah, not initially. I always wanted to write something with loads of characters, and but just going back to Friel, I mean, I was very aware of Friel, and the thing about him was he kind of created 2 or 3 different genres of plays, you know, in a world sense, you know, Philadelphia, Here I Come, and those 2 characters playing, you know, and so he was groundbreaking in lots of ways. And when you start to work on something, you realize what I know there's a very overused word nowadays, genius, but he was a bit of a genius. Like
he was.
Yeah.
But he had his trials, and it's interesting around Faith Healer when you come to that. We were discussing here, he has this amazing rehearsal diary that he kept in 1979 that goes into the heart of playmaking in a way. I think you were looking into that a little.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you see, the thing about it is you realise the amount of sweat and anguish that goes into creating anything, writing a song or putting play together or whatever it is. It does. And Friel sounds like a man that had many a row with himself, like, and drank lots of whiskey and probably fought even harder when he had that in him. But you know, it's a. But you can see the pain in the.
You can see the pain, and also I think it's very interesting from your perspective, because you were saying about the touring and that. Friel had a great respect for the old fit-ups,
yes,
like the touring shows, and Frank Hardy, the healer, is a kind of a fit-up artist as well.
Yeah.
He does these little rundown halls, he never knows how many he's going to have, and it's a kind of metaphor for acting, isn't it?
Totally.
The magic might be there this night.
And the company doing this play is big, Blood in the Alley, which is a company ran by our director, Jeff Gould, who runs the the West Cork Fit Up, which is exactly that, bringing professional theatre to the islands out in West Cork and going to small little venues, which I do myself. You know, so we feel we know the world of Frank Hardy.
Yes.
And you go to, I mean, it's lovely when you get a lovely, warm library and everybody comes enthusiastically. But if you're in a cold hall in West Cork, or worse, North Cork in February, and there's 20 people there, and some of them aren't even sure if they want to be there, and there's no heating, and you go into the dressing room and it's not a dressing room. It's somewhere where they throw all the bingo balls and all that.
Yeah.
And I sometimes feel when you go to these places, it's almost like, excuse me, I have never been a prostitute, but I feel a little bit like a prostitute sometimes going into those places, because it's just it's a strange world, and then you're supposed to create the magic,
happens,
you know.
yes.
So and that's where the faith healing comes in, and I saw the magic when I went to the theatre. Lots of people don't see the magic. And sometimes you become very disappointed when you do a play and the place is packed and somebody wants to talk to you afterwards, and you go, they want to tell me I've done a really good job, and they say, I think I know a cousin of yours.
Yes.
And you're going, right.
Right, that's it. That's a tone now, they're great.
They have no interest in what you've just done. They are just,
the spirits could have soared, as you said. But then you told me before we just fired up the microphones, Pat Kinnavan and Faith here, you told me a great deflationary story there that's worth repeating.
So Pat Kinnavan is he's an amazing writer and actor, but he's a bit pernickety about phones going off and all that. But he was doing a show in West Cork, and a phone went off in the back of the hall, and to everybody's dismay, this fellow went, hello? No, I'm at a play. No, not great. So you wouldn't want to be getting ahead of yourself.
No, it is the nature of what I think Friel is saying there, that there are ecstatic, euphoric nights, and then it's kind of corrosive as well.
Yeah, and there's also, of course, the other thing is, which is what we all battle with, is our own demons and the thing that drives us on, and other people don't seem to get it. And this is, what, and so people can become very, it's tough, that thing, when I used to write little pieces, and I'd grab a hold of my mother and I'd say, I'm after writing this little poem or whatever it was, and I'd be about 3 or 4 words into it, and she'd be, oh God, look at them cobwebs over there. And
it's hard to hold an audience, especially as the mother. But talk about holding audiences and then breakout, because it wouldn't necessarily, you're 1965 date of birth, I'm a little before that, but you had this breakout, because I remember almost by accident, this YouTube video coming across it, and it was Longford tourism.
Oh, that's...
And it was kind of, I'm not sure where that fits in the career, but it seemed to be when you were kind of beginning to see that YouTube could be another stage, could be something else.
Oh, totally, And I think there are a lot of, rightfully, people say about all the things that are wrong with social media, and they are right. There's a lot of things wrong with social media, but one of the pluses is it's getting stuff out there. And that was, I had put stuff up on social media before that, but that was the one that captured everyone's attention.
It was very... I don't know how many in the audience are aware of it, but if you're on YouTube...
And it was just... but it's... so social media is amazing in that most people, and you probably do it yourselves, start looking at their phone, and then one thing leads on to another, and they're getting little things, and I think it's probably only 2 or 3 seconds you watch anything, and then they get to something where they might, if you can hold them for maybe 15 or 20 seconds, then you're away. But it is fantastic. The only problem is now, people have lost the ability to go to a play that's any more than an hour long. Years ago, plays were 2.5 hours. You'd have to have a phone break in a play now, so that people could check their emails and do a bit of scroll, and because we're all so, maybe it's mad though. I mean, we're all into it. It
is mad, but there again, I suppose the reverse of that is, as you say, that this this kind of lonesome character who's going to promote all that can help in Longford tourism, and it's essentially watching this woman with a wasp in the church.
Yeah, and it was based on the story was based on my mother.
Yeah,
because she's the worst storyteller ever, and she would start to tell the story, and she would have to go into such detail. You know, I was wearing a dress. No, it was a colour of no, not that one, but and she'd go around the house looking for the right colour. And by the time you'd have lost the will to live, yeah. But then maybe she's saying the same about what I said about her listening to my story, you know.
Yeah. but then those wonderful videos, then this traction, RTE, you're guesting on programs. Just thinking, you know, there's writers here who'll be reading later. They're getting going. That, you know, as opening portals or opportunities, it did. You wouldn't have seemed a likely superstar, but that. It became that, yeah. I'm talking him up here. He needs it.
I think what you're saying, what you're saying is, so, and it's hard to be aware of this, but I think what RTE or I think what people are looking for is an authenticity, you know, and the only advice I could give anyone is to be yourself. Mm-hmm. Do not try to write like somebody else, or do not try and second guess what is the right way to write, because everybody has their own way of writing. And a fella told me, a young fellow was, excuse me, he wanted to write a play, and he said, but sure, all the plays have been written, really, you know. It's a bit like writing a song. Well, sure, we've covered love, and we've covered, you know, whatever yesterday, and whatever. But and I said to him, well, your story, your play, your story hasn't been told, and it's all about, you have to be as personal and as transparent and open, in a sense.
Yes.
I mean, the strange thing is, you know, you can be more honest through your art than you can in real life, because I genuinely feel that everybody is acting all the time, and that sometimes the only time we stop acting, like we have 4-week rehearsal periods in order to get us to stop acting.
Yes. Yeah.
And be somebody else, you know, but I think most people have put on a front, and you do your go about your daily chores, and you put on a front.
Yes.
We all do it. Yeah. We're doing it.
Yes. There's a performance thing, like, you know, in writing memoir, they would say as well that, you know, that yes, it's Seamus O'Rourke in these books, but there's a persona you invent to get a message across that's particular to that time, be it up to 18, the next 10 years and all that. Now, as you say, it's very authentic, and it's
but
very
personal, it is, but we also, you can be honest to deflect from another honesty.
Yes, yeah.
So you can talk about honestly about that character and that character and that character, and stay away from this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a run.
Didn't Philip Larkin say he didn't like doing public events because he didn't like going around pretending to be himself? But with no pretend, you had a second piece in mind this evening, I think. Were you going to do Rescue Time or From the Memo?
I didn't. I forgot that bit. Yeah. Okay. I do this. It's very short. I just strangely when you mention RT, I'm not a poet, but I have pretended to be write poetry, and most of the things I've written I have been asked, you know, to say, oh, we're by Countrywide on the radio, or you know. But I was asked to write this. It was actually for Valentine's Day years ago. So they asked me to write something about love, which it has been written about before, you know. So anyway, so I wrote this very short, and I wrote this poem called Peelings, which is about me. Anyway, it'll become apparent, I think. They asked me what love is, to put it into words. So I went back to where I learned it, My father and mother at the dinner table on a summer's evening. She was working in the textile factory, he was busy on the farm, and she'd be going back to do overtime, and to save time he'd peel her 2 potatoes and leave them to one side. This huge big man with fumbling hands, exposing his love with knife and thumb, and those of us who sat looking on felt the strength of their bond. We never saw them kiss or whisper or embrace. We never saw them holding hands. But every now and then he'd peel 2 potatoes and leave them to one side. And she knew that they were hers. And somewhere inside, she smiled.
Thanks. Thank you for sharing that with us, Seamus. The writing, as you say, poetry, the memoirs, COVID had that effect as well. You were saying you were touring, and we saw what happened with COVID with theatre and its relative importance in the scheme of things.
Oh, big time, yeah. And I had a lovely, big, juicy tour lined up, and it was going to keep me going for a long time. And then all of a sudden, it was all gone.
Yes.
And I had decided that I was going to write a second memoir in the summer of 2020. Was it 20? Yeah. And so I had to kind of fast forward that, and I just and I always remember, because when COVID came in, there was this lovely weather like what we had this year, and when everybody was out looking into the bushes and
taking in gardens, I remember,
taking in the beautiful scenery and talking about how lovely everything was. I was got stuck into me books. Sorry, that was the first book. Yeah, that was the first one. I kind of have sort of fond memories of COVID from that point of view, because I was with all these characters that I was writing about, and so I was happy out. Yeah.
Great. Well, it became a decisive thing. The memoirs are fabulous, and I think a lot of people, as Michelle was saying, there's great demand for them. And what I thought we'd do now is we'd open the floor to some questions to your readers especially, but I know there are the playgoers as well. So who would like to ask a question of Seamus? We have here.
Thanks, I'm still teary-eyed after that poem. I've had the great pleasure of seeing 3 of your one-man shows, and I just wondered if they're based on real individuals, or are they a conglomerate of people you've known, or straight out of your imagination?
There's this goes back to meeting those people who say, "Oh, you could write about me in your play." There's no one person is worthy of a character. So most of them are made up of a load of people. You know, they're a conglomeration of a load of characters, some people go around. I hear that some people go around with a notebook and they think of they hear a line and they write it down, and I don't really do that. All of my characters and all of my dialogue comes from the piece I'm writing, so if it doesn't come to me, I very seldom try and shoehorn a good line into a play. Now, a few times I've tried it, but you actually end up moving everything around just to get in one good spake, if you know what I mean, and it's not really worth it. But they're not based on individuals as such, but they're all, and a lot of them are all me in a sense. You know, I always remember my wife saying when I wrote my first play called Dig. And I said, and the great thing is, it's not really about me. And she said, it's all about you.
Good answer.
How wrong can you be? Like
have we another question?
No. See?
Oh,
not as big a superstar as you thought.
No, the revelations are all in the plays, as we can catch the whole thing there.
We've told them everything, you see.
And if you were very happy to have those, I'm sure there might be another question lurking there of Seamus, but I'll happy to.
We'll draw again.
Yeah.
And a salmon-coloured ticket.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're doing 6 plays all at the same time. How do you keep that going? I can imagine that's quite difficult, or is it not? Maybe.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I also did the very stupid thing of doing all 6 of them 6 nights in a row, and all I can say is the mind, and that's not the brain, and it's not my brain. It's just the brain in general is an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. You cannot overload it. There was four of those plays were in kind of, I've done them so often, they're in there. There was 2 of them I had to work quite hard at because they were new, and one of them I just kind of winged it. But yeah, a lot of people ask that question, and actors are often very flippant about it, and people say, "Oh, how do you remember it all?" And we say, "Well, that's our job," but it's not that easy.
No.
And especially when you do something like, I mean, I'm I'm fairly easy on myself when I'm doing my own shows. I'm not saying that it's a different show every night, but when I'm doing someone else's play, I'm very respectful to the
cues
text
and the text. Yeah.
And so, for instance, Friel's Faith Healer, which is between 2 monologues, almost an hour long, and it's not my structure of dialogue or the way I'd speak.
Yes.
So it just takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and people don't really get that nowadays because people think there's an app you can get that you can put it. They say, oh, you record it onto your phone and play it on the way to the show, and
yes, yeah.
No, it just takes hours. The same as I used to think the people who can play an instrument are fantastic, but should they spend so much time practicing it? Mm-hmm. And when you love doing something, it's not wasted time, but it just takes a long, long time.
And Seamus, on that, just to follow up that question, just your text, your plays, and then doing Friel or John B. Keane, The Hungry Farmers, a project you have up the road, I think, as well. Is one a break from the other, or do you need to rotate like crops, or what?
No, but you get fed up doing your own stuff because you just. I know. I mean, well, first of all, it's such a privilege to work on something like Friel, and I'm really lucky. And also, it's when you do mention. So I've adapted Keane's novella, which is the Letters of a Love-Hungry Farmer.
Yeah.
So that's coming out next year. But they were both around at the same time, and from what I hear, Friel kind of looked down on John B. A little bit, or he said things like, I think you might have used the phrase, kind of a parish hall sort of a writer compared to what Friel was doing, which is a fairly bit of an injustice to John B. because his writing is so beautiful, and anytime I've been in a John B. Keane play, I say it's like going to eat cake every night. It's his language and his writing is so beautiful. Now sometimes he overwrites, or he says something beautifully and then he says it 3 more times just as beautifully. And so I found when I was trying to adapt his book, was trying to cut down on his beautiful language.
And you'd feel that's okay. Well, of course, it's a book; it's not a play.
Yeah,
so you can
yeah, and
make creative decisions.
and trying to find the theatre in it or the drama in it.
Yeah. But both, I think, you know, when you see The Field, what an influential play, and Big Maggie, and that
Fantastic.
there's darkness there where we started that note
Totally.
there.
Beautiful,
It's
yeah.
a bit, you know, we do know Friel was such an innovator and so dedicated. But he wrote his short stories, he wrote his other stuff, and had some of the plays gone a different direction.
And of course the other thing was Friel in some ways he also wanted to be as loved as John B, you know.
Yes.
John B would go on the Late Late and his beautiful poetic language talking about pouring whiskey for himself or whatever, and
Yes.
and you know, and Brian Friel wrote things like The Communication Chord, which is a kind of a farce, and it wasn't a huge hit because it was a little bit, it wasn't, you know, John B had this way of connecting with rural people, and,
Yes.
but both equally fantastic writers.
Yeah, as Henry James found when he tried to write a play to equal Oscar Wilde at the time. It's just two different sensibilities.
But you see,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I also think that competition within a generation is no harm, you know. And sometimes, like people often say, what gets you writing? And I say, well, a deadline is a good start, you know. And people say, oh, I'm right. I know people who have been writing a book or a play for the last 7 or 8 years, and it'll never be written because they don't have any deadline, and they are really using it as a kind of a crutch, whereas it's hard to beat a deadline and say, okay, I'm going to do it then.
A good friend to the word, the writer Owen McNamee, gave me a tip one time. He said any writer should have online banking, and if you don't feel like working on your computer that morning, check your account. But tell us then, so you're adopting the John B. Keane play. What's next? Where can your superstar fans catch you next?
Well, so I'm finishing off a tour of Pádraig Pots, and I was here in Sligo last week, and I'm going to be doing Faith Healer in only Galway, Donegal, Limerick, Cork, and Dunleary.
And when will
That's in October. So that's
October.
only a couple of weeks away.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
Yes.
And then I have a couple of other things that I can't disclose. You'd swear it was, but I just and then I have. So I will be doing this Love Hungry Farmer, probably a couple of performances before Christmas, and then a big tour after Christmas. And it's with a producer called Michael Scott, who is, you know, these things have always been done with people like Mick Lally and John Kenny, and so it's kind of lovely footsteps to be following in.
Yes, stepping up into that.
Yeah, and it takes a bit of pressure off me. I don't have to. I'm not organising the tour. I'm just turning up and in a limousine.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Big cigar.
That's the place to be at our age. I think we'll turn to our second piece of music now with Jane. And thank you, Seamus.
Okay, thanks.
I really like what you said about love songs, and that every love song has been written, but it doesn't stop us from trying to do something new or something original. So this song that I wrote is called Watch Me Fall, and it's actually the opposite of writing a love song. I just felt like I was failing in life, and I wanted to write a song about sitting in the discomfort of failure and just being like, okay, it can't get worse than this, we're at the bottom. So that could be your third book, maybe. You never know, or not. Watch me fall and not get up. Watch me run out of love. Oh, watch me break, but leave me be, 'cause between the cracks there's still some light to see. Oh, watch me break, I'll let things die and come back alive. Watch me tear and not repair. The broken remnants, they just scatter there. Oh, watch me mourn what could not be. But in this pain, there's still some light to see. Oh, watch me break, I'll let things die and come back alive. Watch me fall and not get up.
Well done.
Thank you, Jane. That was beautiful. We're just going to have Conor now to moderate the open mic. Thanks, Conor.
Thank you, Michelle. So our first reader today is Dean McMorrow from third year in the Writing and Literature program.
Thank you very much. So the piece I'm going to read for you is a little piece titled Facing the End. When the fire ignites and darkness creeps in, let us return to those days of scorching heat, licking ice creams and dipping our feet into the ocean while the noise threatened to undo our joy. And when our words begin to fall on deaf ears, let us return to those nights where we procrastinated for hours and watched reality TV until our eyes went square. Those times where all that existed was us and a black leather sofa. And when our chests tighten and our breath fails to keep up with the weight of our fears, let us think back to those moments where our parents placed us on the high chair, tears filling our eyes, and promised us that death wouldn't touch us. And when those last seconds come hurtling forward, let us not talk of regrets, missed opportunities, unfulfilled dreams, or the forces that took precious things from us. Let us instead look into each other's eyes and be content in each other's company. Let us face that oblivion as a pair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. And our next reader is Nina Devine from first year.
Oh no. Do any of you guys like football? Okay, that's cool. I wrote a couple of poems about the footballer Kevin Keegan. So I guess they're very short. I'll just read the last couple of those. Love when lost in Hamburg. I dream of a minute to give you, an image with a promise, pulsing over time till it's a thrum. And I'm grateful I met you, and sorry about something. Traipsing on, we've noticed that movement opened. A girl's heart, my last... Does this work? Okay. My last waltz, etc. My sounds do little, keyed, grayed, and wrapped up. Almost neatly, granted strands play as ever. Remember me is a good thing, you sang. I stared, little to say, been used on telly. Take the snowy glove and keep it to the beat.
Thank you. Our next reader is Oliver Harris, then from first year.
Hello. Been a long time since I've been in front of a microphone. Please feel free to yell at me if I'm too loud or too quiet. This is a poem I wrote. It's about a very old story that I find very compelling and interests me, and it's called Oedipus as Assimilation. Oedipus swallows his father like a pill. He feels it as a catch in his throat, a burn in his chest, and then it settles in his stomach. His father is a seed sprouting and spreading into something sick and hollow with roots that wrap around his blood-stained hands and lick up the sweat that gathers at his brow. Oedipus speaks in his father's voice. He can feel how it creeps and it climbs up his neck. At times it is phlegmatic, pooling like bile, collecting at the bottom of his mouth. At other times it is clawing and scratching until all his speech devolves into damp-eyed gagging. Oedipus looks in the mirror and sees two men in one body, each engulfing and consuming the other, creator and creation, killer and victim, becoming amalgamate. He feels something tightening inside of him, a crack of pain, a sudden and sharp twisting deep in his groin, thudding like a kick from inside the womb. Oedipus is thinking and speaking for two. He kisses his mother, he kisses his wife, he tells her he is sorry. Or that is what he tries to say, or that is what he thinks he is saying when he tells her again that he is sorry. The umbilical noose tightens, the son dies by her side, and walks away, seeing only with his father's eyes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ellie Robinson from third year is the next reader.
Hello. This is a nonfiction work in progress. I adore soap, and despite my childhood dislike of TK Maxx, nowadays I would happily float through the soap section, pick up a bar, deep inhale, either recoil in disgust or take another breath. It's due to this love of soap that I find myself buying my friends a bar for their birthdays, a gift that my mother sees as rude. My friend Ken buys his friends candles and chocolate for their birthdays. The candle because he loves candles, the chocolate because everyone loves chocolate. We both struggle at gift giving, and independently took to giving a symbol of our love, something that we love that for whatever reason reminds us of a person. He looks for colors, I look for smells. I make it my business to know what my friends' favorite scents are. I think it's quite ironic how I have a far too sensitive nose and one of my closest friends can barely smell a thing. So as I stood in TK Maxx's soap section looking for the perfect bar of soap for Ken, I knew that whatever I picked up had to have a kick. This love of soaps began early in my life, back when my parents and I frequented craft markets, my favorite stall being that of the local soap maker. I would carefully go through each option, and with whatever money my grandparents had given me, I'd buy myself another bar, usually lemongrass, if my memory serves me right. Quinn is often worried about how he smells because he doesn't know, and I often worry about how I smell because I know better than anyone else in the room. Quinn is more upfront about it than I am, apologizing as he enters the room after coming from work because he doesn't know if he smells like the Abbey Hotel kitchen. While I sit in the corner, popping mints into my mouth and holding my arms down tight against my sides and hoping nobody gets too close. I was maybe 12 when I got a set of 11 or so bars of soap for Christmas, which I adored. I set them all out and went through the slow, meticulous process of setting them in proper order from favorite to least favorite, and then reorganizing them to the order in which I would use them. I'd begin in the middle with the faint, unaffronting scents of goat's milk and seaweed, then move down my list to the pungent scents that seemed to curdle with an undercurrent of vinegar. Rose always seemed like it would smell better than it sounded. Finally, ending on my favorites, the mild and fresh. I began to sob once when my mum had unwrapped and used the mint eucalyptus bar as I had been saving it for last. Ah, there. This is perfect. Finely folded in a paper packet with the printed pattern of oranges and lemons spread across it, 3 puncture holes at the top to let the scent escape. A citrus smell so strong that if I held it close to my face for any length of time, I'd become dizzy and nauseous from its sweetness. Even Cain should be able to smell this.
And finally, I'm just going to quickly read a poem called It Doesn't Hurt, Depends on the Nature of the Sadness, though. Your heart, warm and open, voice steady, and inviting me to join you. And my gods are knives, rights, torn skin, and blood-red splashes on the ground, sacred to those alive. My fellowship is with the devil on both shoulders and crimson on one of my hands. My gospel is spoken in hushed thoughts and bloodied knuckles, salvation through pain. My worship is the casting aside of self and actualizing what I believe I am. Your voice, fading to flat white, bitter and disintegrating, beautiful and coagulating. Your voice is holding us together. Thank you.
This mic is a bit precarious. I can't reach it. I think that's the problem. We're all bending on our tippy toes first. So it's the end of the night. Thanks everybody for joining us for the word. Thanks especially to Seamus for being an amazing guest for us for our September edition. I think when I'm reading your books, I always felt there was an authentic voice, and I think that's why they feel so real. And having you here live on stage, it just confirms that for us. Thank you, Brian Leyden, for being such an amazing moderator, for getting the best out of Seamus, I think, this evening in that short space of time. And I think we could have sat and listened to you for a much longer time period if you had the time to do it. And maybe might get the two of you again at some stage, another time again. Jane, it was lovely to have you join us and provide your music. It was actually a lovely contrast with the kind of conversation here. It was just a really nice theme for the evening. So Jane, a new person to us in the library, so it's great to have you. Thank you to the open mic participants for joining in. You're all brilliant. It's great to hear new voices. And thank you for the Q&A questions as well. Coming up over the next few weeks, we have the National Public Library Open Day, which is taking place this Saturday in all library branches. So if you want to find out more about library services, including our e-service and our audio services, newspaper access online, digital skills classes, creative writing workshops, book clubs, all that kind of stuff. If you want to find out more about your library service, you can come in on Saturday, and we have staff here who will show you. You can come in any day really, but we're having a special day on Saturday to show you these services. We also have a gaming event on Saturday for anybody who's interested in board games with Wayne O'Connor, so that's on Saturday. Our next edition of The Word will take place on the 26th of November, and then we're also, Sligo Live will be here on the Saturday after the bank holiday. I think it's the 4th of November as well, so that'll be in the afternoon. But you can find all these details on our website, and also you can leave your name and contact details at the desk to be notified of future events. So I think that's it for tonight. So I hope you enjoyed the evening, and I will let you go. We're going to have Jane do her final song, and that's us done. Thank you very much.
It was so lovely to be a part of this, and thanks also to the library and the sound guys and everyone. You know, it's amazing. I wrote this song, "Let There Be Light." I've been in Sligo for 2 years, but in Ireland nearly 15 years, and I love Irish poets and all that kind of stuff, but I mostly love Irish musicians, and there's a singer, Christy Hennessy, that I really love, and he feels very genuine as well. I don't know does anyone know Christy Hennessy? Or yeah, and it just feels like there's no pretense with how he writes and stuff. And I was trying to write a song, and I have a tendency to write sad songs, and I was going to say, "There is no light." And then I thought, well, maybe that's a bit sad. So I I used Christy Hennessy as an imaginary, unfortunately he's passed away, as an imaginary person that was singing to me. And that's kind of how this song happened. Yeah. Let there be light, let there be days, let there be hope that helps you tread your ways. Through the crowds, you'll find a face, someone that reaches you in some kind way. In a commotion, it's getting hard to know what really matters and what's worth letting go, and what you intend and do you intend to know. No, let there be lights, lights for the day. Push on, just follow what guides you along. In the commotion, it's getting hard to know what really matters and what's worth letting go. And I missed the mornings when you said I love you so. No, let there be lights, lights for the day. No, let there be lights, light for the day.
on a day.